What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another edition of the Sheehan Show here on Sherdog.com. And today I am back with my top 5 bets for the weekend in the world of mixed martial arts. And of course, it's the massive UFC 280 this weekend. 2 title fights. At least 1 number 1 contender fight, maybe 2 possibly on this card. It's really, really good. As I suppose as bad as recent cards have been, this is as good. This card, UFC 280 as well, 281, which is coming up as well, are really, really good. Obviously, the rumours of John Jones coming back for UFC 282 as well. So now, obviously, that's unconfirmed. But what great times for the world of mixed martial arts, and there's some great fights coming up as well. We over the last few weeks we've had a very, very kind of up and down betting show, and not in terms of even the bets, because we've had good bets coming in almost every week, but fights falling out, missed weight, no UFCs, no big cards and stuff. So hopefully we'll get on a run here now where we have no one missing weight, no cards falling out, and everything goes well. Famous last words, I suppose. Well, let's do it anyway. Before we get into the bets, bet responsibly is the first thing I always will say here. But also news broke this week about the UFC fighters and teams and everything. I know the statement is out there if people want to go out and read it. But they were banned from betting. And it's a very, very interesting thing because it's probably very different in America than it is over here. Like when I was young, I grew up and the prohibition on betting wasn't the thing. You could go down in my local town here. There's only a few thousand people, and there's a bookies there. You could go down and you can bet on Mike Tyson to win, or Man United to win, or the Packers to win the Super Bowl, or whatever it might be. Or you could go to Dublin or go to Cork, anywhere you wanted to do it. Same in the UK, and obviously in America it's a little bit different, where you have to go to Las Vegas or the other places where you can bet to do it there. And now it's opening up in different states, and there's sports books opening up, I suppose, all over the place. And with what we had and what was because I suppose commonplace in America, you had very different rules, or what was normal, I suppose, for the betting audience. Like here, if you heard about a Premier League player or whatever betting on a game, that's big trouble. They're going to get banned, and it has happened to players. No name springs to mind at the moment, but I guarantee you, if you Google it, it's multiple people. It's happened to down through the years. Some have got bans in terms of banned from the game. Some have other got monetary bans depending on what the betting is like. And to me, I think it was a surprise that this wasn't the case in MMA when I started getting into MMA. And I'm sure to people maybe in America, it was like, sure, why couldn't they bet where we can normally bet? We can't bet in our local towns anyway, or whatever. So it's a very interesting change that has happened. And I think I suppose what's normal to a person will, I suppose, determine their opinion on this. To me, I'm surprised it hasn't happened earlier. I know to a lot of people it's probably why they should be able to bet on themselves or bet on the fights if they want. Obviously, as long as they're not betting on their opponent or anything like that, which I think everyone will probably obviously agree with. And I don't know if I formed a solid opinion on what it should be, what the rules should be. But if we're to look at the other sports, were to look worldwide at sports and how they do it, this is commonplace, I would say. And with America catching up in terms of how betting is done, I think it was bound to become commonplace in MMA, in the UFC as well. And I actually saw a tweet about and I leave it on this before I get into the bets. I saw a tweet about, I think it was about James Krause last week, and it was obviously a joke, but it was just some Twitter MMA fan or whatever, and they're saying, James Krause giving Twitter advice to go really hard but not too hard so my parlay doesn't come off. You know what I mean? And obviously that's a joke, and that tweet wasn't suggesting, or I'm definitely not suggesting anything about James Krause, but that's the ability to do that, and the ability for fighters or coaches or whatever to have betting shows and talk about betting like that. It does leave them open for criticism and leave a doubt in people's minds, I suppose, sometimes, even if it doesn't exist. Now, for the vast majority of people, it will never exist, but for some people, it will, and there will be. As I've seen with the Premier League, seen Premier League players and with other sports down through the years, snooker is a big one for it, and other things as well. And I think basketball in America isn't there always like pint shaving and things like that. It will be left open for interpretation. I suppose it will anyway. Will this actually defect from it? Maybe not. But at least if it is a known thing and the education is out there not to do it, then people maybe less like you. But anyway, I said I'd definitely talk about that at the start of this because it's big news in the betting world this week, and something which I'm sure we'll be hearing more about in the upcoming future as I just turn off my heater here. It's October now and it's pure winter. It's pure winter here, so I need to get my heater on here out in the office and warm myself up. But anyway, we'll get into the bets of it. And we have a few warm, hot bets here, and the first one to start off, very interesting first bet this week. I'm going for Petr Yan to win by TKO KO, and that's plus 300. Yan is fighting Aljamain Sterling, and anyone who listens to any of my podcasts or has heard me talk about this card or this fight knows that I am a massive fan of this fight. And I know some people don't like it just because it is, I suppose, the champion in waiting. A lot of people would say Yan is the best fighter still in that division, even though the last two fights with Aljamain went the way they did, with the first one being the DQ and the second one obviously being a very close decision. But I like the fact that what this is, right, is and let me just finish that first sentence as well. And I think a lot of people don't believe O'Malley is ready for that spot yet against someone that good, right? Now, what I like about this is what I complain about with, say, Justin Gaethje all the time. He gets to a title fight, loses it, and then expects to be the number one contender immediately again, or even after one fight. Gets there again, loses again, and now immediately again expects to be the number one contender again. I would like to see, say, someone like a Gaethje, and I'm just taking Gaethje as an example, but if Gaethje wants to get another title shot, let him fight number 5, let him fight number 3, let him fight the number one contender, and then he's earned the title shot back. That's what I believe Yan is kind of doing here. Very quickly, there's a title fight on the same card, very quickly back in fighting the next up-and-coming, very good contender in a match to get back his place, which I love, right? And then the other side, he's given the opportunity to O'Malley, but O'Malley's also taken the opportunity in a very, very tough fight. The big problem for Sean O'Malley, a lot of people were saying, and he said it himself, is I'm not going to be taking these fights for this amount of money and all of this, and it felt like he wasn't taking the big fights and just trying to get the clout or whatever. Now, I think he got a new contract, didn't he? And he's taking the big fights, or maybe has to take the big fights for it, but either way, he's gone from someone who either wasn't given the big fights, didn't want the big fights, to taking arguably the hardest fight in the whole division. And I love that. This is the sort of fight that turns you into a fan favourite, win or lose, possibly. And if you win and you win well, it turns you into a possible fan favourite, but also it gives credence to all the hype you've ever had. So this is why I love the fight, and it's a perfect fight. Now, the bet. Let's get into the bet. And with all that said, I still do think it's a really tough matchup for Sean O'Malley. Do you know what I think the biggest problem here is? And it's something which is going to take a while to kind of get out of my thinking when I think about Sean O'Malley fights, when I'm betting on Sean O'Malley fights. I just think against the toughest guys and the toughest matchup, I'm not sure his physicality is going to stand up. We saw the Vera fight, we've seen other fights where he's been injured and things have happened. I just feel like in a fight against the toughest guy in the division, the nastiest guy in the division, as we saw 2 fights ago, will Sean O'Malley stand up to that nastiness? Will he stand up to the ability from Petr Yan to land in the break? Will his physicality, will his body be able to stand up to that? That is my first major question. Now we can get into the breakdown and we can talk all about it. I could talk about that for an hour, and I'm sure many people on previous shows and all of that will. I'll do a bit of it here maybe, but I think that's the one major key. When I've gone through everything else, I think that could be the key. Now, in the other parts of it as well, that is the key, but because I think Yan will have success in lots of other areas, if not all other areas. I think Yan will be able to close the distance against O'Malley. He struggled at times against Aljamain Sterling, absolutely no doubt about that whatsoever. And he hasn't struggled in the past in that manner. Now, why did he struggle against Sterling? What was the difference? Did the first fight play into the second fight? Was it a tactical issue? I would tend to think it was. That would be my take. And now maybe I'm wrong. Maybe he'll come in here and he won't look the same fighter again. And maybe we blew him up too much. Maybe he isn't as good. But I don't think so. I think he is a really, really good fighter. And I think it was a tactical error in that, along with Sterling fighting very, very well, obviously. So I think Jan will be able to cut off the cage. I think he'll be able to make him pay. I think the way Sean O'Malley wins this fight is to win it from depth. I think he needs to keep this a long outside fight and picking off Jan from there. And as I said, if Jan can close that distance, I don't think O'Malley's going to win it on the inside. I think Jan is going to lock him up, put him against the cage, land some big shots, or just land shots in close against him. And when I say put him up against the cage, it could be with a clinch, or it could be just with footwork in terms of pushing him back against the cage, landing leg kicks, landing shots like that, and taking the fight away from Sean O'Malley. And I've gone for the finish because of the first point they made again. Will O'Malley be able to stand up to that for 3 rounds? I find it hard to see, because if Jan wins this fight, I think he's going to need to close that distance early. And that's going to be 15 minutes of him closing the distance. And he's going to have to land hard shots to close that distance to have that success. So that's going to be hard shot after hard shot after hard shot after hard shot for 15 whole minutes. Can O'Malley stand up to that? That's a big question. That is a big question. And my answer would be no. My answer would be no. So I'm going for Jan. And that's my take, in a plus 300. It's a big bet. It's a big bet, big price. But Jan plus 300 to win by TKO. KO is the bet I'm going for there. Now, I have a bet in the co-main event as well and in the main event. But I will leave them for another second here. And I will go for my next bet is Sean Brady at minus 140. Now let me just check the lines again, just in case that has moved or anything here, and I will run through all the bets towards the end anyway. He's actually, just looking at it here, he's actually minus 130 now. So since last night, he's actually gone into minus 130. So that's interesting. And you know what? I kind of thought he would. And I think that price will continue to go in. I think it'll get closer and closer, and it would make me more likely to bet on him if that is the case. I think this is a wonderful fight. It's a really, really wonderful fight. I absolutely love this fight. And do you know what? I think it's going to come down to power and strength here. I really do. I have an awful feeling that Brady is going to have the advantage in defensive wrestling. And I think it could, we all remember that Cheeto Vera fight recently. Who was it? Was it Rob Font? It was Rob Font, wasn't it? Font is winning, and then Vera landed the big shot late to take the round. And that happened multiple times throughout the fight. Now, I don't think that'll be exactly like this. But I feel like, we have an analysis here in our local GA games here that some teams find it a lot easier to score than others, right? So some teams can run up the field, get a goal, very easy. Sometimes teams have to pass it here, pass it there, pass it there. They have to defend here, they have to rob from someone there, and then they get a goal, And I feel like Brady will find it easier to score than Belal Muhammad will. I think Belal is going to struggle big time to get Brady to the floor. I think it's going to be an issue. Now, he's been training with Habib and he's been training with all that crew, so has his wrestling improved? It would be hard for it not to train him with all those guys, and it has improved anyway before that. But O'Malley's Brady, sorry, I'm always going to mistake Brady and O'Malley, sorry. There's 3 Seans here and there's too many of us. But I just think Brady's wrestling and his strength will alleviate that, right? That's my call on it, that it will. And if it does, I think it's a massive advantage, because if he can put a takedown himself on that, and if Brady can take Belal down, well, that's game, set, and match nearly there, I think. It really, really is, because Brady is so good on top, so strong on top, lands that ground and pound. And he also, do you know what he's really good at as well? He's really good at timing the takedown in the fight. Now, not timing necessarily, you know, someone throws a punch, dips under, times it, taking on. I mean timing it like the fight's going a certain way, he gets a takedown, he changes that fight. Or he just, the fight's going his way, then he gets a takedown, it's even further his way, and you stop the comeback. I think he is excellent at doing that, Sean Brady. And if he can do that here against Belal Muhammad, I think it's going to be big. Now, I've only talked about wrestling there so far, and I do think that'll be a major part of it. Even if there are no takedowns, I think not having takedowns will be a major part of it. On the feet, I find it very interesting, and I'll go back to the easier to score part again. I think Brady will find it easier to land big, expansive shots than Muhammad will. I think he hits harder than Muhammad. I think his shots look harder than Belal Muhammad's. And I think Belal, like, Sean Brady's a very good technical fighter, really good. But Belal has improved so much. I wouldn't rule Belal out at all in terms of, let's say, winning a 15-minute decision. It's a very close fight, as I said. The betting lines are very, very close. I wouldn't rule that out with Belal at all. But I also wouldn't rule out Belal winning like 12 minutes of the fight, Brady landing 3 big punches and winning 30-27, if you get me, you know? And that is kind of the reason I've gone for this, because I give him that advantage of being able to score, which is most important on the feet, and also having the advantage on the ground. Now, maybe he won't in either area, but that's my call. And if it was my call for Belal, I'd go for Belal in the betting, but it isn't. And I think those are the two major parts of the fight, as you know, they are in every fight, I suppose, the wrestling and the striking. And I just think Brady will nick it. I really do. So Sean Brady minus 130, that is my my second bet for the week. My third bet, I'm going for Sterling and TJ Dillashaw, Aljamain Sterling and TJ Dillashaw in the bantamweight title fight to go to a decision, and that's minus 180. Now, obviously, that isn't the biggest price in the world, but minus 180 I think is a good price for that. If you look at, say, the recent fights for both of them, Aljamain Sterling's last fight obviously went to a split decision. It was a disqualification before that. The San Diego one, okay, was a quick finish, but then you had the Munoz fight before that was a decision. Oliveira fight, he went to decision with Brett Johns, he went to precision with Barao going back through the years as well. Now, TJ obviously hasn't been fighting too much recently, but his last fight was a decision against Sandhagen. And I just think, like, TJ obviously had a long kind of run of decisions before, I suppose, he got to the big Cody fights, when we know what happened in those, and we obviously know what happened in the Henry fight as well. Now, it's at that weight class as well, where, you know, they're a lower kind of weight class, it's more likely to go to a decision, I suppose. The one thing I think here, and why I think it will go to a decision, is I feel like TJ will have slowed down a little bit. He's like, I always put it up, TJ Dillashaw is older than Jose Aldo, and sometimes people forget that, you know. He's 36 years of age, and I feel like if this fight gets finished, if I was looking at prime TJ against prime Aljamain, and maybe it will be prime TJ, there's nothing to suggest it won't, right? Apart from the injury, the 2 years out with EPO before that, and the good, if not great, performance against it was San Diego, wasn't it? Yeah, last time out. I think the most likely way this fight finishes, I think there's two ways. If Aljamain gets TJ in a very vulnerable jiu-jitsu position where he can get a submission, or if TJ lands a big knockout. I think it's less likely TJ gets a big knockout at this stage of his career, and I think TJ is very good on the ground, very good at getting on top, very good at wriggling out, and it could happen, but I don't think he'll get in like a really vulnerable position against Aljamain on the ground. Now, he'll probably get into a vulnerable position at some stage. To fight Aljamain Sterling and not get into that is going to be tough. But I think Aljamain, a lot of the times, especially against someone this good, would need to hit him hard, hurt him to get him in that vulnerable position to submit him. Now, he might do. He absolutely might. 5 rounds of fighting could happen. But I do see this one being a very tactical fight. And I think if it's that tactical of a fight, and if TJ is a little bit slower, I think it's going to be a slow enough paced fight. I think there's going to be a lot of lads trying to pick each other off from the outside. I think there's going to be a lot of Sterling trying to get takedowns when he can. And I think there's going to be a lot of TJ being very defensive on the ground if he does get, say, held down or taken down, against the fence maybe or whatever. Or even if he does get taken down, I think he could push against the fence, and there could be a lot of clinching in this one. I just see, like, John Lineker is fighting this weekend, right? And you look at John Lineker and at the similar weight class, and fighters like him, and like, how are those fights finished? It's when they come inside and throw those big bombs. Do you see, like, Sterling and Dillashaw being an inside fight where there's big bombs thrown? Not really. So I think this one is going to a decision. I really do. I think Sterling will win, but I'm not 100% sure. So I've just gone for a decision, and I will leave it at that, I suppose. Minus 180. Sterling and TJ goes to decision. Now, the next fight, I'm going for the opposite. And not quite the opposite, but I'm going for under 2.5 rounds for Krylov and Oezdemir, and this is minus 145, and I think this is a great price. We had the Minifield fight last week, and I gave that as one of my bets. I believe I think it was plus 105 or something like that to win by TKO KO. I had a couple of quid on that, so it was very, very good. It was great to earn a bit of money back. And I feel like this is going to be a similar sort of fight. Let me just look at the straight up betting in this one again here. Oezdemir is the underdog. I was tempted to go with Oezdemir. I just feel like sometimes Oezdemir is one of these guys, right? And we all know him in all different sports. Sometimes they come out and they just go hell for leather and they're an absolute world beater. And sometimes they're not. And you know what? Nikita Krylov is the same. He really is the same. You know, they're like Targaryens. You flip a coin and one of them's good and one of them's bad. And I feel like, this is a very, very plain reason why I'm going for this to finish inside it. To be surprising if both of them had a bad night, you know? But it'd be surprising if both of them had a good night too, if you get me. So what I'm betting on here, and this is bro betting if I ever heard it, but I'm betting on one of them to have a good night and one of them to have a bad night and someone to get finished. I have a sneaky feeling it's going to be Oezdemir who's going to get the win. I know Krylov has improved an awful lot recently, you know, and he hits hard, his wrestling is better than it once was. But Oezdemir, sometimes he surprises you, you know, and he comes out and he lands those big shots, and he can take the fight away from lads. He really, really can take the fight away from lads at times. Like if you look at him, it was Paul Craig last time out, wasn't it? Yeah, I know that went to decision, and he's had a couple of fights go to decision lately. But he also, you know, he can get finished and he can finish himself. You know, he's had how many? 13, 14, 15, 16, 17 fights out of 24 finish inside the distance. That's a pretty good rate, to be fair. That is a very, very good rate. And Krylov himself, you know, Krylov is 37 fights now, and all but 3 of them have finished inside the distance. So that's a big finishing rate if you add the two of them up. For that one to finish between two guys like that inside the distance, or under 2.5 rounds, I think that's pretty good at minus 145. I think that's good. And I like that price a lot. Right. To the main event for my flyer of the week. And I was very surprised to see this price, honestly, when I looked it up. I like to look up sometimes who I think will win, and then the most likely outcome for me, and see can I just get an easy bet from that, right? And this is not an easy bet, don't get me wrong, but this is, to me, the most likely outcome, and it's Makhachev to win by decision. And that's plus 425. And I couldn't believe it's that high of a price. I really, really could not believe that this fight was that high of a price for Makhachev, who is the favourite. He is the favourite in this fight, and it's very, very interesting how they see the betting on this and how it is how it's lining up. And obviously we'll go through the fight and we'll talk about each, you know, the price for the finish and the price for decision and everything like that in a second. But my breakdown of this fight is Charles Oliveira for the last while, right, he's turned into a carefree striker because he knows his ground game is so good, and because he knows his striking game is now really, really, really dangerous, right? So he can afford to throw, and this is not something new with Charles Oliveira, right? Anyone who's watching MMA knows Fabricio Verdum has been doing this for years. Jacare has been doing this for years. How many times has Fabricio Verdum jumped up with high kicks and fallen on his arse? Oh my God, he fell over. He's fallen over on purpose. So you go, come into my gorge. We've seen that down there. He absolutely is doing that. And it's an intelligent, smart, brilliant tactic. If you can trick someone into doing that. Trick Makhachev into doing that though. Because if you trick Makhachev into do that, he'd go, okay, here I come. I'm coming into your guard. And you know what? I'm going to pass your guard. I'm going to get into half guard and I'm going to hold you there for the next 3.5 minutes, 4 minutes. And you're not going to be able to get up. You're not going to be able to use your jiu-jitsu and I'm going to win this round. Do you know what? Come on and do the same in the next round. Do it then. Come on and do the same in the next round. Come on and do the same in the fourth. You won't do the same in the fourth because you'll be so tired. I'm just going to be able to take you down with a double leg and in the fifth again. And that's how I see this fight going, really. It's really as simple as that. Now, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe the striking will be enough for Oliveira in this fight. But if you look at past Oliveira fights, he was able to open up with the striking because nobody is going to take him down because they're afraid of his jiu-jitsu. Right? I think we'd all agree with that. Gave him openings on the feet where he could basically strike and everyone else is trying to fight an MMA match. And if it did go to the ground, we know how it's going to go. In this one, can he open up in a way that will get him taken down against someone with the wrestling of Makhachev? Can he afford to do that? Is his jiu-jitsu good enough to beat the best wrestler in the division on the ground? Is it good enough? Now, if it is, he'll have another easy night. Because he'll throw out his big strikes, Makhachev will take him down and he'll triangle him or armbar him or whatever it might be. Absolutely. I'm not betting on jiu-jitsu. At this stage, at 2022 in MMA, we're in early 2023, I'm really betting on Makhachev. I think the difference here as well with Makhachev is I think he has very good jiu-jitsu and he's a very good striker as well. So it's not like some guy who's going in there with terrible striking. He can strike, he can jab, he can move all around, he can do all different things. And I really think Oliveira is going to have to do something very different. Now, that doesn't mean Oliveira won't do something very different. By no means am I saying Makhachev is definitely going to win or anything like that. But if I'm looking at this and past this prologue and I've seen the way both of these guys have fought over the last while, I think I kind of have to pick Makhachev here. I think I do. But I saw someone was saying this earlier in the week, and it might be a mad thing to think of it, but like someone said, if Charles Oliveira wins this fight, he's the greatest lightweight of all time. And I wouldn't necessarily disagree with that. I really, really wouldn't, because there's certain fights. There's certain fights, you could say maybe Kane versus JDS in a couple of those fights, or, whatever, maybe with the fourth fight coming up here in the flyweight division, or say McGregor versus Diaz when he went up, and it looked like a terrible matchup at a terrible weight class, and he still won career-defining massive wins after other career-defining massive wins that can change what people think of you as a legend of the sport. And that could be very well what we see here from Charles Oliveira. Very well could. Absolutely. I'm not saying that couldn't happen at all, but it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough. And, if I'm the betting man, I'm betting on Makhachev. And if my call for how he's going to win is by decision. And at plus 425, I think that's a great flyer for the week. Plus 425 Makhachev via decision. All right, let's take a closer look at some of the other fights in the card. I sound like Mike Goldberg or something. As I promised, let's take a closer look at the main event. First of all, so straight up betting here. There's a lot of variation in this betting. A lot of variation in that betting. Plus 168 for Oliveira, minus 193 for Makhachev. Honestly, I know I'm picking Makhachev and I'm picking him to win. I wasn't expecting that line to be that. I was expecting people to say, all right, who's Makhachev beaten? He hasn't beaten anyone yet. Charles Oliveira has beaten everyone in his wake. Charles Oliveira should be the favourite. I was sure Oliveira would come into this fight the favourite, but he isn't. He really isn't. So I think people are probably seeing what I'm seeing as well. The over-unders here, let's look at 2.5 rounds. The over 2.5 rounds plus 120. I think that's a great bet. Minus 163 for the under. Over 3.5 rounds plus 175. Think that's a good bet too, honestly. Honestly, I was thinking, right, if this fight goes the way I'm expecting, I think it'll either be a late finish or the decision. And the late finish, we'll get into it here. The fight won't start round 5, minus 310. Fight starts round 5, plus 215. So we'll get into the props here for the TKO KO. Oliveira to get the TKO KO, plus 500. So if you fancy Oliveira to get the big knockout, that's probably the way he's going to win if he is going to win, plus 500. If you fancy for the submission, plus 315. Makhachev KO, plus 400. Makhachev by submission is plus 185. Against Charles Oliveira. Now, Charles, if I'm not mistaken, let me just look at it here again. Charles has been, he has been caught a few times. He has been submitted a few times. But still, maybe it could be head and arm choking or something like that. Charles has been submitted 3 times. So it's not like he can't be submitted. But, that's a tough line there. For that one, I suppose. Oliveira wins a decision, plus 1,000, and obviously plus 425 for Makhachev. Another, as the rain pours here in beautiful West Limerick, another flyer I was looking at. I was saying late, right? So if fancy Makhachev late, round 4 plus 1,100, round 5 plus 1,400. So one of them, if you're looking for 2 or 3 quid to throw away into a flyer, I wouldn't say one of them isn't a great flyer. So yeah, very, very interesting, some of those bets there. Let's move on and talk about, and there's a lot of bets and there's a lot of a lot of props there for this weekend. Yan and O'Malley. The betting on that one is pretty interesting too. Yan is minus 265. O'Malley plus 225. Obviously, Yan a pretty smooth favorite there. Fight to go to a decision, minus 170. Fight doesn't go to a decision, plus 140. So the betting company believes that this one is going to a decision. I'm not so sure on that one. If you fancy O'Malley to get the knockout, plus 550. If you fancy Yan to get the knockout, plus 250. Plus 300. Obviously, as I said it, some places 250. I see in one place here has it, and if you go looking for it, obviously you can find it up as far as plus 380. Plus 380 for Yan to win by TKO KO. Very, very interesting, and I would I'd definitely be sneaking that one out if I was you. I like that bet a lot. The fight, O'Malley wins inside the distance just, so TKO or submission, plus 540, and the same for Petr. Yan is plus 210. Plus 210 on that one. Very, very interesting lines there, lads. Very interesting altogether. And I just wonder, will that be one of those fights that we look back on and think, I missed out on maybe a big bet there, but I suppose we will see. Dariush and Gamrot, what a fight this is. Let me just see the TJ betting here in a second. We'll get to we'll leave that for last. We get to TJ and Sterling, we'll leave that last. Dariush Gamrot. Do you know what? I'm picking Dariush here. Plus 165, minus 190 for Gamrot. Look, I discussed this in a podcast I did earlier in the week, and I kind of talked myself out of picking Dariush, if I'm being honest. I think Gamrot's a better all-round fighter, but I don't know why I have a feeling Dariush is going to catch him. I have an awful feeling Dariush is going to catch him. If you think that too, Dariush by KO is plus 600. Plus 600. Very interesting fight. Chookagian against Firo. Plus 167 for Chookagian, minus 192 for Firo. If you're betting on that one, there's only one bet really to get on that one, and that is Chookagian to win by decision. Plus 240. Chookagian by decision. I'm telling you, maybe she won't win, but if she does, you'll be kicking yourself if you didn't bet Chookagian plus 240. I think Firo is a better fighter all around, but God almighty, there's a few better fighters I thought went in there against Chookagian and ended up losing a decision. Very interesting. Muhammad Brady, we talked about that already. Minus 130 for Brady, plus 110 for Muhammad. So close. I see him one place here. He's plus 100, yeah. So this, by the time this fight starts, it could be an even fight. Looking at the betting here, Muhammad started at minus 225. And he went out to plus, what did he go out to? Plus 115, and now into plus 100 again, into plus 110 in some places. I think this one is going to go back and forth. That's the closest fight in the card for me. Great fight. Bahalyo, I can't believe he's only minus 180, minus 190 in some places against Muradov. I really like Bahalyo. I think he's a top prospect, and I'm going for him in that one. Krylov and Oezdemir, obviously I gave the bet for that one. The straight up betting on that one, plus 146. I'm going for Oezdemir in that at the plus money, minus 171 for Krylov. Lucas Almeida against Tuhugov. Tuhugov is the favourite at minus 155, plus 135 ish, around that anyway, for Almeida. Abubakar Nurmagomedov minus 170, plus 145 for Omar Gadziev. Interesting close fight there. I'd probably go for Nurmagomedov. AJ Dobson and Petrosian. Never know with Petrosian, to be honest. Minus 191, plus 166. I'd probably take the underdog there, maybe. I don't know. Makhachev, obviously Makhachev, one of the biggest prospects in the sport. He's over plus 1,000 in all, but maybe one betting office here, plus 800 for Malcolm Gordon, minus 1,000. I hope I said there, not plus. Rosa Landsberg, then Landsberg is the underdog, plus 273, minus 333 for Rosa. And then the other title fight, so close again. Sterling minus 182 favourite, plus 157 for Dillashaw. Fight goes to decision, minus 180, as obviously as we spoke about, to finish inside the distance, plus 150. So the betting obviously is going with my call there. If you fancy Sterling to get the KO TKO, plus 1,100. Like, if TJ Dillashaw is not the fighter he used to be, I could see that happening, or I could see a Sterling submission at plus 390. Sterling inside the distance, then if you fancy that, plus 300. That plus 300 bet there is not bad, I don't think, if the wrong TJ Dillashaw shows up. I have a feeling he will a bit, but I don't think he's going to be shot, so I like the decision there. Sterling by decision, plus 115. I was going to go for that, but you know, I like the minus 180. Dillashaw decision plus 300. If you fancy Dillashaw to get the big knockout, he is plus 450. It's surprisingly big, I would say there. But some very, very interesting betting there. I suppose the whole way up through the card, but in that fight as well. There's road to the UFC this weekend as well. Not many big names, I suppose, on that. And there is, what else? They're Brave coming up this weekend. Brad Katona, who's obviously fighting out of Ireland, he's fighting Gamzat Magomedov. You know, Katona has won a few fights, being the underdog recently, and he's plus 200 on that one. So that's an interesting one to look at there as well. But bumper edition of the betting show this week. And you know why? Because it's an absolutely great card. But we will leave it there. I will just quickly recap the bets again before I go. Yan by KO TKO plus 300. Brady straight up at minus 130. Sterling and TJ to go to decision minus 180. Krylov Oezdemir to finish inside 2.5 rounds minus 145. And the flyer of the week, Makhachev wins by decision at plus 425 over Charles Oliveira for the vacant title in the main event. Alright everyone, I will leave it there. Enjoy the fights this weekend. Let me know what you're betting on. Comment section below. Give me your one bet for the week. Everyone, we'll recap them next week if we get enough of them. So leave them in the comment section below and return next week to see who won and who was the smartest bettor on Sherdog.com. We will leave it there. I am Sean Sheehan for that beautiful website of Sherdog.com. Enjoy the fights this weekend. I'll see you all next time.